Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the best show on the internet about plastic surgery, health, and beauty. This is Nip Talk. Today's segments, first off, how do you become a plastic surgeon? I had a student ask me that, and I'm going to go through it. Then, we talked about preppers in the last episode last week. Today, we're going to do prepper wound care in case you're injured in the zombie apocalypse. How do you fix yourself? And then finally, Sarah's going to tell us about pre-workouts. I can't wait to hear that. Her segments are always great, and it's coming up right now.
Live from Lincoln Center in the heart of the Dallas Metroplex, this is Nip Talk, an honest and uncensored show about plastic surgery, health, beauty, and lifestyle, with your host, plastic surgeon Dr. Bruce Hermann, and your co-host, entrepreneur and social media influencer, Sarah Bennett. Now it's time to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the topics everyone is talking about. It's time for Nip Talk.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Please crush that like and subscribe button. We really like it when you do that. It helps us a ton. I'm your host, plastic surgeon Dr. Bruce Hermann. With me is Sarah. How are you, Sarah?
I'm so good.
Good. Trove is still on vacation. We got Emilio again. You came back.
I sure did. I
We're both wearing the same outfit.
Yeah, so every Friday, Mean Green Fridays, you know how it goes, right?
Sarah's breaking the third wall or the fourth wall. Don't do it, Sarah.
It's okay. It happens. But yeah, glad to be back. Glad to be back.
Good. Let's see. In the summer, anyone have vacation plans?
No.
Nope.
But you do.
I do. Leaving.
Yes.
Heading to Alaska.
Alaska?
Yeah. So I've always talked about the motorcycle trip to Alaska. That's not this. I'm actually doing one of those cruises.
Nice.
So flying
like
to
a Viking
Seattle.
cruise or something like that?
Yeah, Alaskan cruise. So with the family, like my family loves cruises. Well, my kids mostly, because you know those cruise boats, they have like everything
Yes, they
on
do.
them. It's like a giant resort. And so my kids like them. They were pushing for a cruise, but we've done like the Caribbean cruises, you know, a bunch. And so we were just looking for something different. So we thought about like maybe like Mediterranean, but it's so like much time to get over there and
you have to fly to get there.
Yeah, it's like so long.
Do you have to fly for this one?
We do. It's we leave out of Seattle, right? So
yeah.
So we have to fly to Seattle, but like this shorter flight. It's not like international, and so it'd just be easier. And actually, I did an Alaskan cruise when I was a kid with my family, which was really cool.
Fun.
So yeah, I'll have to let you guys know how it
Pictures.
went. I'll take pictures. I'll post them on the Insta.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've never been on a cruise, but I've been wanting to. They look fun, so.
You should do it. Like they are fun.
When I think about it too much, it creeps me out.
Really? Why? What part creeps you out? Have you not been on one?
Yeah, I've been on two before.
Oh, have you?
It just creeps me out being on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get
And
it.
then
Titanic vibes.
Yeah, like the first boat. Yeah, the first boat I went on when I was a kid, we were like in the water, like our
like
room.
your bunk was like down low.
Yeah, so there was no window, and that creeped me out. I felt like I was like on a submarine. I was like, I hate it here. I hate this.
Well, you know what they say, like the higher up you are, the more you feel the sway of the boat.
Yeah.
So there's trade-offs, right? Because if you're at the very top, like, and I always found it weird when I get off a cruise, even if it's a big boat, like, and I get off a cruise, like I feel like I'm rocking a bit.
For
you know,
sure.
it's like your body gets kind of used to that back and forth motion, and then when suddenly it's not happening, your body's like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, no. And then whenever you have a cabin that's like up really high on the boat, that freaks me out too.
Yeah.
Because you like look over it and it's just like.
You look over the balcony, you're like, oh my God, it's so far down.
Yeah, and then at night, if you look off the boat, it's just like black.
Mm-hmm. The stars are so pretty though. Like,
yes.
when you're on a boat, I love that. Yeah, and it's going to be great up there with.
Definitely.
You know,
out there.
I'm hoping we can see like I've never seen Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights.
Oh, yeah, you might be able to see
Yeah, I might be able to see. I'm gonna check that out. Maybe take a picture. So, I'll let you know. All right, let's move into some segments. So, as usual, a lot of times I get segments based on just conversations I have day to day, and I had a student follow me around. It was last week or the week before, and this person wasn't necessarily interested in plastic surgery because I'm a plastic surgeon. They asked, how do you become a plastic surgeon? Because there is kind of like a long pathway to it. So I was just gonna kind of go through like the steps. Like say, you know, you're a high school kid or a college, kid or somewhere around there, and you're like, I want to become a plastic surgeon. What do you need to do? And I'm gonna tell how I went through it.
You like knew? You always knew that you want to be a plastic
No,
surgeon,
I did
or
not.
just a surgeon?
In fact, I actually went to medical school thinking I was going to be an ER doctor. You know why? Because ER, that show, was so popular back when I was like young, and I didn't even really watch the show, but I saw clips and I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. Like I could be an ER doctor. And another reason too is I came across an accident when I was in high school, and I used to work at this like shooting range. It was out in the middle of nowhere, and I had to take this farm to Market Road, and it was like night. Like I was leaving there, coming home, and it was night, and I saw a car flip over, and the person got like thrown out of their car. And so I stopped, and I was like, "Oh my God, I have no idea what to do." I had no clue. Like, the only thing I knew to do is like I probably should shut the car off because the car was still running. I was like, I don't want like a fire start. But the guy had got thrown out of his vehicle, and I was like, man, I just felt helpless. And so that actually was one of the things that got me interested in like being like ER. But then I figured out that ER medicine is not what you think it is. I mean, it's a lot of primary care. I liked it for the potential like trauma, the excitement of it. And being an ER doctor is not necessarily that. I mean, it can be very, very boring. You know, it's treating a lot of like really and so I was like, okay, well, what is it really that I like? I like the trauma. And so that's how I kind of got interested in surgery. So I was thinking, so I went to med school thinking I was gonna be ER doctor, and then I swapped to general surgery thinking I would either do cardiac surgery, which I thought was super cool, or trauma surgery. And then I realized I didn't want to do that either. I changed my mind a bunch of times.
But it was always medical.
No, not always. In fact, I had thought about being a pilot. I was actually accepted to the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, and I thought about going that route and being career military, which may sound weird for people that know me because I'm not like necessarily like military.
Yeah.
But I mean, anyone can be in the military. But yeah, I changed my mind a lot. I think I was not very smart when I was young. I mean, I was smart, but like I just wasn't focused, I guess.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't even go to college when I graduated high school. Like I just didn't apply to college, and so I graduated second in my class, and I just did nothing for a year. And then I was working and stuff, and that's whenever that whole thing with the car happened. But I really got off on a tangent there. But good questions. Okay, so if you want to be a plastic surgeon, there's a pathway to it. And it starts out in high school, and so and I kind of rank these as like, is this a really important time? So is high school performance really important for being a plastic surgeon? And the answer is no. It's not really. I actually did really well in high school. I graduated second in my class. All doing good in high school lets you do is get into a better college, but getting into like some insanely good college like Harvard or whatever is not necessary to go to med school at all. In fact, I mean, some of my best friends actually went to junior college first and then to a 4-year college and got into med school. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I guess the most important thing in high school is learning the habits you're going to need for that next step. Right. Whether or not you graduate
Try
first.
to get those AP classes.
I don't think that matters. In fact, I would tell you I'm really glad you brought that up. If you were thinking about going to medical school, I would encourage people not to necessarily try to get all these college courses. You know why? Because you're then cutting out basic classes that you should get A's in. Yeah. And as we'll talk about, like the first big hurdle to becoming a plastic surgeon or doctor in general is getting into med school.
Yeah, but honestly, the only thing, I honestly think that English AP helped me a lot because of writing papers. I remember when all my friends that took like basic English, when they got into college, they could barely write a 2-page paper.
I do think that taking honors classes is important, but what I was specifically talking about is, and I'm going to tell my daughter this because she is at least now telling me that she may want to go to med school. Like, don't take a bunch of classes that are going to cut out your basics in college, because those are, getting into med school from college is all about your GPA. I mean, it's so critically important. So for example, if you don't have to take a lot of those freshman classes that you normally would take because you tested out of all of them, then suddenly you're taking harder classes instead of these easy classes, which are easy A's, right? And so I would encourage people, like, if you want to like go to med school or in the same mind for law school, like I would, even if you have credit, I would take the classes. I would take the intro English and all that because it's an easy A,
Fluffer course.
It is, right? I mean, you're going to have to take hard classes. Like, if you want to get into med school, it's better to take 20 easy classes and 20 hard classes than 40 hard classes. You know what I mean? Because you're more likely to get a lower grade. And the GPA, they don't really break it down into, oh, well, this person has a 3.2 because they took all these high-level classes, and this person has a 4.0, but they took easy. They just look at the GPA. Like that's like one of the cutoffs. So, so getting to high school, it's basically about learning good study habits because you are going to have to perform at the next level, which is college. And like, does it matter what college you go to? No, it doesn't. It really does not matter.
It matters what med school you go to. No?
Not really. I mean, it helps, but like the college, like you have to get good grades. Like if you want to get into med school, like you really need to be like 3.7 or above. And then you're gonna have to do good on your MCAT. Like you're gonna have to have those good study habits. So that's where high school helps. College, you're gonna have to work hard. I mean, if your first year in college you bust out like a 2.5, like you're sunk.
Yeah,
I mean, you're probably not gonna get into medical school.
What's the degree though? Biology?
You can actually get in it anyway. Like there are certain prereqs you have to take for the MCAT. So you have to take like biology, inorganic chemistry, organic chemistry, and physics. But you don't necessarily have to have a major. A lot of people will do biology major, which is what I did. There's a problem with doing that though, is like, say I hadn't gotten med school, what am I gonna do with a biology degree? Like would be a high school biology teacher? I mean, not that that's like a bad thing, but it's like,
It's not what you wanna do.
It's not what I wanna
Yeah.
do, right? So I had friends who were smart. I had one of my really good friends was an economics major, but then took the prereqs so that they could take the MCAT and went about it that way, which was brilliant because they have a very kind of, well, I mean, I don't know economics, how useful it is, but like a business background is very handy for medicine. You know, how handy is my biology degree? I mean, not really at all. I mean, it helped me take the MCAT, I guess, but you know, you can do that without that.
Yeah.
I'd almost encourage people to not necessarily do biology. That is the most common.
And just take the extra.
Yeah,
take the extra classes.
Because I
If
did
you
biology
can.
major and I had minors in chemistry and Spanish, so I was taking extra classes anyway. I could have reversed that and done, you know, like entrepreneurship as a major, and then had a minor in biology and in chemistry or something. So, but yeah, college is super important because getting to med school sucks. It's really hard. You know, and I kind of underperformed a little bit in college. I started out really good with like 4.0s, and then I got into a fraternity and my grades went down a bit. So I like got into med school in my first year, which is good. A lot of people don't. Like a lot of people have to, you know, apply a second time. But you know, I didn't get in like the very first round. I got in like a later round, which is fine. I mean, it all works out. But yeah, your grades are important. MCATs, extracurricular activity is important. They always want people to have medical experience, and that's where this student, you know,
Intern.
yeah.
Intern
Well,
and
it's not. It's before, and it's like you know, they call them like shadows. It's like you follow a doctor around and just kind of learn about medicine. Like you
Yeah.
have to do it, and then you.
I had to do that for when I tried to apply to PA school.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
followed an ear, nose, and throat doctor.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's cool. So I did. I worked in the ER for a while, and then I followed a urologist, and then I followed a family practice doctor. And I eliminated urology and family practice from what I thought I might want to do based on doing the followings, which is nice to get exposure. I was like, yep, and crossing those off the list. So all right. So say you get in med school. You made it. You're in med school. All right. Then what? All right. How important is med school? Well, it depends on the route you want to take to get to plastic surgery, because there are two routes to plastic surgery. The first route is there is actually a residency that is just plastic surgery, which means you could do one training. Unlike me, I did 3 technically. I could have just done 2, but I did 3. So there is like an integrated program where you take like a few years of just basic surgery, and then you take 3 years of plastics. I didn't go that route because I didn't think I wanted to be a plastic surgeon. I will say that route is hard. They're both hard, but that one's super hard because there's not as many spots. And so if you want to go that route of doing the integrated plastic surgery training, you got to kick butt in med school. I'm not sure I could have gotten it. I did good in med school. Like I had one bad semester, which kind of dragged my overall rank down a bit, but overall I did pretty good. I'm not sure I could have gone the integrated route because they're just so competitive. I went the other route, which is do either general surgery or ENT first. Those are still fairly competitive residencies, so you have to do good, but you don't necessarily have to be like first in your class.
Yeah.
So I went the general surgery route, and of course everybody thinks their way is the best. I like the way I did it because I came out a fully trained general surgeon, and I think last week we were talking about hernias and how sometimes I find a hernia when I'm doing a plastic surgery, and I'm like, oh, I don't need to call the general surgeon. I can just do that myself.
Yeah.
So I really liked that I was trained in general surgery. It gave me a very rich, diverse background in medicine. And then from there, you have to get the fellowship for plastics. And I did really good in general surgery. Like getting a plastics fellowship is extremely hard. The year I applied, it was a 30% match rate. So basically, there was 100 applicants for, every 30 slots. That's pretty rough. That means, I guess what, three out of 10. I was trying to think of it like 1 out of 3, but most people didn't get a slot. But I did really good in my general surgery, and I went to a really good general surgery program. I think that helps a lot. I'm not sure the med school makes as much difference as like a residency, because pretty much all the med schools are pretty good, but the residency programs vary a lot in how good they are.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up going to like a really like good residency. And what made it good is it was so hard. It was a really what they call malignant program, which means it was just really hard. Like the people that graduated from there were really good because they were just survivalists, right? It's like they made it through. And so that helped me a lot to get a spot for plastics, quite frankly. If I'd gone to like a smaller program, it would have been a lot harder. And then once you get into plastic surgery fellowship, then you're set. You just got to finish it, which usually plastic surgery fellowship's not that hard comparatively to other training. Like compared to my general surgery, my plastic surgery was a breeze. I thought it was easy.
So when you were done with your fellowship, you were like, I'm a plastic surgeon.
Yeah, and then I did one more. So there are subspecialties in plastic surgery. Most people don't do them. There was this really famous plastic surgeon, his name's Dennis Ham. He's one of the most famous plastic surgeons in the world right now. And so I saw him speaking at some conference, and I knew the guy because he does a lot of breast and body surgery, which I really liked. And so, I wasn't like a fanboy or anything, but like I knew who the guy was. He's kind of famous. And so I went after he spoke, and I was like, oh, Dr. Hammond, I just want to say I really liked your talk or whatever. And like we just kind of hit it off. Like he really likes sports. He's a big Michigan fan. I was a big University of Texas fan. Like, so we started talking about college football and then blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, what are you doing after you graduate? And I was like, well, I'm not really sure, because I had a friend that we were going to start a practice together, and he backed out. And he's like, have you ever thought about doing a fellowship? And I was like, no, I hadn't. He's like, well, I have a fellowship. And like his fellowship is famous. Like it actually has like a long, like it's hard to get into.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, what ended up happening is, I guess like a couple weeks before that, the person who was supposed to come that next July dropped out for personal reasons.
Yeah.
And so he was like missing a spot in his fellowship. He's like, hey, how would you think about coming out to Michigan? And
Just snuck you in there.
yeah, he's like, how would you think about coming out to Michigan and interviewing for this spot? I was like, dude, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like getting, it's like Elon Musk saying, hey, come out, I want to like mentor you, right?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, absolutely. So that's how that worked out. It was totally crazy. I mean, because that's a very, very prestigious fellowship that he has. And so, yeah, I flew out like the next week, and like we hit it off again. And he's like, yeah, I want to offer you the spot. And I was like, dude, in.
Nice.
So, yeah, I know. It's so funny, right? It's just like these little...
Got the golden ticket.
It is, right? And it's like, and it was all because like after I saw him, I was like, I'm going to go meet this guy and just say hi. I mean, I wasn't going up there like trying to...
Get anything from him.
I was like, I just think you're a cool dude, and I'm impressed with your work and stuff. And I think it made a big difference in my career because it gives me a lot of different techniques, and also the say I'm fellowship trained in breast and body is it's good marketing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really I am very thankful I got to work with Dr. Hammond. He's still very active. It was funny when I did his training program with him. I would he would travel all over the world to do talks and stuff, and so I was like kind of helping keep his practice, keep batten down the hatches while he was gone, and keep seeing his patients and stuff. So it was really cool, and I helped him with some research projects and whatnot.
Nice. So like, how long was it? So like, whenever you decided I want to be a plastic surgeon, how long was it until you actually were practicing as a plastic surgeon?
So I decided I was going to do plastic surgery in my third year of general surgery, which would have been 2005. And then I started my private practice in 2010. So it was another 5 years.
Okay.
So, but I was 35 years old when I started working for real.
Yeah.
Because it's like 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, 4 years of med school, and then I did 8 years of surgery training. So whatever, how many years that is. And then I took an off year after high school. So.
Yeah. I guess, when did you start college?
I was 19.
But what year?
94.
So 94 till?
98. Yeah, 94 to 98 was college, 98 to 02 med school, 02 to 2010 was surgery, but at 3 different places. It was like general surgery was 5, plastic surgery was 2, and then my fellowship was 1. So yeah, it's a long road. I mean, it's a long road to be a plastic surgeon, and being a plastic surgeon is different because there's a lot more to it.
I could be a plastic surgeon this month if I went your route.
If you went my route.
Because my birthday's the 20th.
Nice.
On
Take
August.
over my practice.
Yeah. If I just would have gone to med school,
There's a
I
couple
could be
things
a
I'd say, though.
practicing plastic surgeon right now.
It could be. There's a couple things about being a plastic surgeon. I mean, one, there's a lot of artistry in it. So, some people are good at it and some people are not. And it's hard to tell if you're going to be good at it. I mean, you can learn it, but people who are naturally artistic are a little bit better at plastic surgery. Because it's less mechanical and more visual spatial. Yeah, exactly. And the other thing about plastic surgery, I would say, is a lot of plastic surgeons go into business for themselves. So you have to have that business acumen, which I never took business classes, but I actually worked. I've worked my whole life in various jobs, and that helped tremendously. And then, the thing I didn't know a lot about was marketing. Plastic surgery is even now when I've been out of, in practice for 15 years, we still do a lot of marketing because you have to. It's super competitive. And you have to know about social media, and you end up doing a talk show. I mean, it's completely different than being
wild.
It's different than being almost every other type of doctor is completely different than being a plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
It's just a completely different animal. It's why that plastic surgeons are always considered kind of unique.
They seem to have more outgoing personalities.
I'd say that right. And a lot of times plastic surgeons are a little bit eccentric. They're
You're
just
a weirdo? Sorry,
a little bit, yeah. I mean, I'm into some stuff that's not racing motorcycles, and I have a whole scorpion collar in my house. I mean, I'm into weird stuff, right? I mean, and that's a very stereotypical thing to say about plastic surgeons is that they're a little bit eccentric, a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's true. I mean, there are some very normal plastic surgeons. I don't know. You think I'm normal?
No.
You don't think I'm normal?
I don't think it's good to be normal anyways.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, I don't want to be
Boring.
just the same, white bread, kind of bland. I like to do stuff different.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, plastic surgeon. We really went on a tangent there. It was kind of fun though. It's kind of
35 years old, just
you'll be
go to
30.
school.
You'll be about 35. You could be so technically you could be as young as 33 if you went the 6-year route.
If you didn't skip, if you didn't have a dormant year,
Yeah. So I was a little bit behind.
34, 35, get on it.
Yeah, get on it.
If you're listening and you're in high school.
I'm trying to convince my daughter says she wants to be a neurosurgeon, which would be fantastic.
Fancy.
I know, but I'm like, hey, if you be a plastic surgeon, you could take over my practice. That just it's like handing.
Take over the empire.
Right, it's like handing someone a business that's already functioning instead of building it from scratch. I don't know, she might take me up on it. She's very artistic too, my daughter. She would be a great plastic surgeon, but who knows? We'll see. I'm not gonna I'm going to recommend it, but obviously.
Subliminal messages.
Yeah, if I tell her to do it, she absolutely will not do it.
Yeah, gotta be sneaky.
All right, let's move on. So last week we did a prepper survivalist first aid kit. And I had some people say that they really liked that. And so...
Slightly different picture.
I know, I changed it a little
different.
bit. It's a little bit different.
You turned a different...
I turned a different way.
More forward.
Yeah, I know. I'm going through my prepper poses there. Anyway, so this is once again, it's kind of for fun, but kind of serious. I want to talk about if you ever were, say at the end of the world, zombie apocalypse, or if you're marooned on an island and you had the supplies that we talked about in last week's episode. So check out that. So meeting people, throw a link up there, do your magic, put the link to the first, here, I'm going to point to it. Where's it going to be? Here, put it right there, people. So we'll put a link to my first aid kit. But so I was thinking about, okay, well, say you're at the end of the world or whatever, or you're out on a desert island and you get a wound.
Yes.
How would you treat that if you had, certain stuff? And once again, I'm going to throw my disclaimer up. Please do not treat wounds yourself. We are not at the end of the world. You're not on a deserted island. If you have a wound, please go see a doctor. But this is just hypothetical. We're pretending here. We're pretending that it's the end of the world and how you would take care of wounds. And all right, so why is wound care important? I mean, you know this. I mean, wounds can get bad if you don't take care of them. Wounds can go south.
You can die from
you can die from wounds.
Yeah.
You can die from wounds. Yeah, exactly right. That's the biggest thing. If a wound gets infected and that infection gets systemic,
out of control,
yeah, you can absolutely die from it. And small wounds can get very serious if they're not treated properly. So, I actually have a lot of experience to this. So, in addition to being plastic surgeon, reconstruction, and former trauma surgery, I've been director of wound care programs for over a decade, big ones. So I treat lots of wounds. So I can actually give you guys some good information about this. So So I guess the first thing you would ask, okay, what makes a wound serious? Like, what makes one wound, more concerning than another? Well, I mean, the obvious one.
The size of it?
Yeah, size, of course. Yeah,
Okay.
bigger wounds are more at risk. And I would consider size in two ways. Size, like surface area like this, and then depth.
Yeah.
Depth. Because as the wound gets deeper, you start to get into more critical structures. Like you get into muscle.
And they have like layers of suturing, right?
Right, if you were going to close it,
Yeah.
because that'd be one thing is, can you close this wound? I didn't actually include that, but I'm going to talk about it.
One time my mom was walking in between cars at a parking lot and like where the license plates are, and one of them was like tailed,
She cut
She
herself.
slit her freaking leg so bad. It was so deep. Like it was like, I don't know, 3 inches deep. It was like all the way into her muscle and her
That's
fat.
crazy.
It was disgusting.
That brings up.
And she was just like holding it. And I was
like-
like, cool.
It's like you read my mind too, because that comes up to the next thing I was going to bring up. What makes a wound serious outside of area and depth, location.
Yeah.
And some of the worst place to get wounds would be like your feet and your lower extremities.
Yeah.
Your backside, like your buttocks area and your groin. And so, what makes those areas worse? I mean, blood flow. The further away from your heart a wound is, the less blood flow it's going to get, the less ability it has to fight infection, and the less ability it has to heal.
Yeah.
That's why foot wounds are bad. I cut my foot like a week ago, and I had this wound for almost a week.
Yeah.
Which totally sucked because I couldn't run. And why is that? I mean, I'm in pretty good health, but it's on my foot. Like, it's just a bad area. It's dirty. It's far away from your heart. Blood flow is kind of sucky. So, if you were injured, you want to take assessment. Okay, how serious? I mean, all wounds can be potentially serious, but like if you have a larger wound, a deeper wound, it's in a location that is not considered a good place. So like feet, lower extremities, groin, your buttocks area, you got to be extra careful with. All right, so first step in wound care, at least in my opinion, is like, what is the status of this wound? Is this wound infected? I mean, a lot of wounds pop up as an infection. A lot of times when I get consults for wounds, is that somebody got a cellulitis and then they got an abscess, and then that abscess breaks through and they end up with a wound where all the pus was. And so, the other way people get wounds is like, injuries, like, you fall, you're working outside and like a log falls and cuts you. I mean, that's a dirty wound. You get like bacteria in there,
Or
you
a
get like
license
debris.
plate cuts you.
A license plate, you gotta get your tetanus shot, right?
I think she did.
So, what's the source of the wound? Is it trauma? Is it infection? You want to get the wound clean as soon as possible, and that includes dead tissue. Because a lot of times whenever you get injured, and this goes for whether it be trauma from trauma wound or infection wound, you're gonna have tissue that's not healthy. And this is where it gets hard for like the
What if
late.
it's like fresh? You don't have to worry about that, right?
If it's fresh, you can still get dead tissue, because a lot of times what happens, a lot of people think, oh, I get cut with a knife. Well, if you get cut with a knife, like a straight cut, you're not going to have a lot of dead tissue.
Yeah.
Where you get dead tissue is like, say you fall down a cliff, right? And you get like shredded, like you get multiple cuts right on top of each other. Then you start to get dead tissue like in between the cuts, or like you get flaps of tissue where the tissue dies. And if you have dead tissue in a wound, that is a great, great place for bacteria to set up, because that is food for the bacteria. There's no blood flow in that dead tissue, so the bacteria can just go hog wild, reproducing, eating up that food, making more bacteria. And then suddenly your wound is a big mess of pus and you're really sick and you die. So you don't want that to happen, right? So
That happened real fast.
yeah, right. It happens quick. I mean, it doesn't really happen that quick, but if you were like, and once again, it's all hypothetical, because remember,
We're on
if
a
you have a
deserted
wound,
island.
yeah, you're on a desert island, or the zombie apocalypse hit. You want to check your wound and make sure that there is not infection in it, so there's no pus, and you want to make sure that there's no dead tissue. And dead tissue is pretty easy to tell. It'll be like purple, black. It won't look the same as your like normal healthy tissue. It'll be cold.
Will it be pale?
Could be pale. Pale tissue sometimes I won't remove, because pale tissue is not necessarily dead.
Okay.
And it might make a comeback.
Okay.
If it was pale, and I do this all the time when I'm debriding wounds. Like when I'm debriding wounds that are fresh that I get consulted for, something bad happened, like say like they had a bad infection or like a surgery went bad. Like I'll open it up and I'll start cleaning away dead tissue, and I'll get to tissue that's not super, super healthy, but it's not dead either. And a lot of times I'll leave that, because if you go hog wild removing tissue, you're just making the wound bigger.
Yeah.
So you want to be a little careful about what you remove. But that is the first thing, remove any infection and then remove any dead tissue. Now, you also want to clean the wound, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, clean. Now remember, we have our supplies, like our prepper kit or whatever. So how I clean wounds, soap and water is actually super, super effective at cleaning wounds. I would probably go something a little stronger, at least at first. I really love that Dakin solution, which you can literally buy that stuff off the internet.
It's That's like chlorine?
It's the sodium hypochlorite, which is dilute bleach.
Yeah.
Great for cleaning wounds.
Yeah.
I like that. Hydrogen peroxide is good. The problem with hydrogen peroxide is it's actually kind of caustic to your tissues, and actually can cause damage if you use it, too much or too intensely. So I personally don't use hydrogen peroxide, but it's nice because a lot of people have it. It's really good if like you cut yourself in the yard and get like dirt in it. Yeah, throw some peroxide in there. Give that one good cleaning to like really kill bacteria. But good old soap and water works really good. As far as keeping a wound clean. And most people have access to water and soap. So then it's okay, all right, you got this wound, you got all the pus out of it, you got all the dead tissue out of it, you've cleaned it really good with some sort of antiseptic, whether it be hydrogen peroxide or betadine or the hibiclins that you were talking about. I personally like Dakin solution, I use that stuff all the time. So now what? You have a wound, right? So then your choices, like you mentioned closing stuff. In this hypothetical scenario at the end of the world, like if you have the prepper kit that I talked about in that one episode, we did include sutures and stuff.
Yeah.
You could make an attempt to close this if you have the know-how, which, it's the end of the world. Hopefully you got a manual about how to do some suturing. The thing about closing a wound is it does carry more risk of infection.
Yeah.
If you close a wound, especially a traumatic wound, unless you do it under sterile conditions and you're able to more or less sterilize the wound and wash it out, you just run the risk of that getting infected. Versus your other alternative would let the wound heal from the inside out. And so I'll tell you, when I get a wound in my wound clinic, occasionally I'll try and close them, especially if they're fresh. Like it's like something that just happened. I'll try to wash it out and close it. But a lot of times if it's something like infection, I'm not going to close that wound.
Yeah, my mom's cut on her leg from that license
She had to heal
plate.
from the inside out?
No, they just sewed it right up.
Oh, they did?
Because we took her to the doctor immediately.
And you did it right away. Okay,
Yeah.
then that's fine. Yeah, that's a smart thing to do.
Well, she's a nurse, so she immediately was just like,
she knew what to do. So
I think she probably had
I need stitches.
Yeah, she was like, I need, this is gonna get infected, just like immediately.
So, if you have the ability to close a wound and you have the know-how and you have the tools, trying to close the wound is not a terrible idea. It's what, I would do for most traumatic stuff. The exception to that would be a wound that came about from infection. You typically don't want to close. I never close those. I always, leave them open. So it's like, okay, well, say for example, you didn't have suture. You don't have instruments. Or maybe this wound came about from infection. What do you do? How do you take care of a wound? Well, I will tell you there is a very, very simple and very, very effective way to treat a wound to allow it to heal on its own. And that is a classic, what we call wet to dry dressing. And it's exactly like it sounds. You're going to take some gauze. Now, remember from last week, we had two types of gauze. We had woven gauze, which is the ones that like little strands. And then we had non-woven, which is like paper towels. You take a woven gauze and you pour a fluid on. Now, your choices could be, I use that Dakin's, the sodium hypochlorite a lot. You could use normal saline. Just the thing with normal saline is it doesn't kill bacteria.
Yeah.
It's kind of like bacteriostatic, but not bactericidal. So you're gonna take a gauze, a woven gauze, you're gonna soak it with one of those materials, whether it be either normal saline, Dakin's. There's another one called Vosh, which is kind of popular. Vosh is okay. I don't dislike it, but it's not my favorite. But you're gonna use one of those solutions, you're gonna put it on the gauze, you're gonna wring it out till it's kind of more like damp instead of wet, and you fill up the wound with that gauze. Then you put a dry one over the top and you wrap it up.
Yeah.
And you change that once a day, twice a day if it's a bad wound, like meaning it's like potentially a dirty wound. If it's dirty, doesn't look clean, you wanna do it more frequently. And you change it once or twice a day. And when you change the dressing, you clean it with soap and water again. And unless there's something crazy going on, that wound should heal.
Yeah.
And wound care really can be that simple.
But don't use dirty water.
Yeah, you want to use if you have your prepper kit, then you got your saline.
Yeah.
You got all this stuff. I guess like if you were like literally on a deserted island, you could boil water.
Yeah.
If you have salt, you add it to that. It's better to use something more like normal saline, which is like 1%, 0.9% salt per liter. You can make that yourself. It's not hard. You could use water, but you want to boil it, right? You want to make sure it's sterile. I mean, wound care technically is not sterile. Like, we don't use sterile gloves to do wound care. It's clean. You want your supplies to be clean, but they don't necessarily have to be sterile.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, wound care can be that basic. Like, a wet to dry dressing is kind of an old school surgery way to get a wound to heal, and it is extremely effective. And you really don't need anything crazy to pull it off. Like, definitely all the stuff we talked about in the kit would do it. So how do you know if it's working, right? So typically when you get a wound, it's going to be like multicolor. Like, if it's muscle at the bottom, it'll be pretty red. If it's fat tissue, it'll be kind of yellow or white. As the wound is healing, it is going to turn to a beefy red like a steak. That's how wounds look when they're starting to heal. It's like we call it granulation tissue. So granulation tissue will start to grow, and that wound will become beefy red. You know, like I said, like a raw steak. And you know you're on the right track. And then you keep doing your dressing, and you let it heal in, and you're home free.
That's all you have to do.
I mean, really, telling you, wound care is not overly complicated. I mean, it's something not a lot of people...
As long as you just try to keep things clean, you'll be good. Keeping
things clean is paramount. You know, a wound has to be clean in order for it to heal.
Change dressings.
Yeah, change your dressings, use good supplies. Soap and water goes a long way. Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of people think that you shouldn't get a wound wet, which is total nonsense. Yeah. Washing a wound with soap and water is not only, you know, not bad, like it's critical for it to heal. I get so many patients that come to my wound clinic and they will say, oh, well, they told me not to get this wound wet. And I'm like, that's total nonsense. That is total, anyone who told you that shouldn't be telling you that. Like, clean a wound in soap and water in a shower is great. It cuts down the bacteria, you know, I mean, very effectively. It removes non-healthy tissue. And those are two of the most important things for getting a wound to heal. So, all right, prepper wound care. It's not complicated. I mean, it really is pretty simple. Once again, remember, this is hypothetical.
Yes.
If you get a wound, go to the doctor. Please go to the doctor. Don't try to care for this yourself.
Knock on your door.
Yeah. So, all right, Sarah, you're going to tell us about pre-workout?
Yeah.
So explain that to me like I'm dumb. Like, so it's pre-workout, like pre-workout workout? Like,
pre-workout is a type of supplement.
Oh, it's a supplement. Emilio, did you know this? Am I just a dummy? I'm a dummy, right?
I know what pre-workout is.
All right. No, I
am familiar with pre-workout. I don't take it. My friends do, but I know
it's a pre-workout. I was thinking like it was like stretching or something.
Yeah, like an activity.
An activity. It's not an activity.
No.
It's something I'm going to eat, or am I going to drink it?
You can do both.
Okay.
So, pre-workout, a supplement. It aims at enhancing performance.
Oh, right.
And
so is
focus during exercise.
But this is different than the time you were telling us about I need to like take carbohydrates, right?
No, creatine.
Oh, we're talking about creatine?
No, pre-workout has creatine in it sometimes.
Oh, okay.
But I was talking about creatine last time.
That's right.
Like a couple
Which I've actually used creatine back in my workout days.
Good.
Yeah, it's good.
You should keep using it. You don't need to be a workout freak to take creatine.
Will it give me more energy?
It'll give you more focus.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew that. Didn't I ask you this the last time? Okay, I need to look that up. All right, I'm gonna check that. I'm gonna look this up.
It's
when we get
good
done.
for you. You can typically, it's typically made of a blend of caffeine and other ingredients like creatine and amino acids.
Okay.
And you can take it in a powder form, which is what I usually do.
So you mix it with something?
Water.
Just water?
Yeah. Or you can do a capsule or gummies. I didn't know that there were gummies, but that's fun, I guess.
Huh. Interesting.
Everything is in gummies.
I know, right? The gummies are taking over.
Yeah. So like I said, the ingredients they have are caffeine, which increases alertness, focus, and caffeine usually can last up to 12 hours. So if you're a caffeine weirdo like me, I like drink way too much.
But you gotta be careful, like if you work out at night, though, I guess, right?
Yeah. Sometimes pre-workout has like after effects I've noticed whenever I take it. But
although I think working out is like one of the best ways to like get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
if I work out hard, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna crash, even if I'm not taking caffeine.
Yeah. The other ingredients are beta-alanine, reduces muscle fatigue and enhances performance.
Okay.
Creatine, which we've talked about before.
Right, for increased muscle.
Energy levels.
Yeah. Yes.
By storing energy in the muscles.
Right. Makes more ATP.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then taurine reduces muscle fatigue and inflammation, and I don't even know what that word is, so I'm not even going to try to say it. And then
I'm sure there's a lot of ingredients in there that are probably like, yeah, that one's just like a filler.
I don't know. And then sometimes it can have green tea extract, and that's just another type of caffeine thing.
So
Protects against muscle damage and enhances antioxidant
So how
status.
often, or I'm starting at how often, how long before my workout should I use pre-workout?
So it's best consumed 20 to 60 minutes before you work out.
Okay, so
that's for absorption.
Say 30 minutes to an hour, just to make it simple.
So whenever I work out, I usually take it 30 minutes before.
Okay, and is it like a big volume of stuff, or?
It's like, so a powder that I have, it's sometimes, because sometimes people have like a high tolerance to caffeine, which like I do.
Which I do, yeah. I have the same
So
tolerance.
instead of taking 1 scoop, you can take 2. It says up to 2.
Okay.
But some people like,
Wig out on it.
yeah, I don't think that's
It's too
good.
much.
But yeah,
And like, so are you taking that in addition to your creatine?
yeah, I take creatine in the morning.
You take it in the morning, right?
Yeah, I put it in my coffee because
You
it's
put it in your coffee.
tasteless.
Yeah, it is tasteless. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was trying to remember.
Yeah. So the one thing about pre-workout is that it's not like small studies have proven that it works, but
You knew I was
not. going
to ask, didn't you? You knew I was going to ask you. What did
It's
the study say?
definitely more research is needed for that, but the studies were. Let me find it.
What did they say the benefits was? You can work out longer?
It improves anaerobic power and VO2
Okay.
max.
That
So
makes
there was
sense.
2 studies that tested
Yeah.
that.
That makes sense. I mean, especially with the creatine. I mean, stuff like caffeine.
And I tried to, because when I was looking at that article, I tried to find other places where it would like actually give me like a hard percentage of like how much more effective you are
Yeah.
at your workout than
It didn't
without
have
it.
that.
There's
Yeah.
nothing that
It's
proves
hard.
it.
I mean, because like I'm sure all of those pre-workouts are probably different. There's probably not a standardized formula, is there?
No, you
Yeah.
have to, and that's something I'm going to talk about too. So,
Oh. All right.
yeah. So some of the side effects of pre-workout are dizziness, nausea, heart palpitations,
Sure.
arrhythmias, headaches, and skin flushing due to the niacin and beta-alanine.
Okay.
So if you don't, whenever I take the pre-workout, I always get tingly skin.
Really? And
Yeah.
that's probably from the
The beta-alanine. Yeah. So like my hands will
like
get
flushing.
itchy.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it bother you though? Not really.
No, it kind of just makes me think like, oh,
It's working.
It's working. Yeah.
I wonder if they put that in there just for that.
I don't know. I have no idea. But an alternative, so like if you're not into taking supplements, a
Yep.
good thing to do would be like 30 minutes to an hour before your workout. Do like a strong cup of coffee or maybe an energy drink, like a healthier one.
Yeah.
And a pre-workout snack that has like amino acids and vitamins. And some workout snacks that you could do would be, or pre-workout snacks would be like Greek yogurt with fruit, banana and peanut butter, oatmeal, and berries, whole grain toast with avocado, a smoothie.
So there's a workaround if you don't want to do the supplements.
Yeah,
But the supplements are probably pretty convenient though, right?
definitely.
Yeah, it's
If you're on
powder.
the
Like
go.
you dump in water. Can you mix it with like other stuff?
I guess if you wanted
Like
to, but it's
Gatorade?
usually flavored.
Oh, so you want to put it with water.
Pre-workout
okay.
is flavored usually.
And it comes out like Gatorade or something?
I mean, what do you mean? Like it tastes like Gatorade?
Yeah, like what?
It tastes like usually they're like fruit flavored.
Like fruit punch or something? Interesting.
Yeah, I don't sit there and sip it. I kind of usually
Just
just
chug it?
it. And
How
some
much
people-
volume is it?
Some people just like straight up
The powder.
throw it in their mouth.
So you can mix it with like 8 ounces. It doesn't have to be
Yes,
like a huge volume.
it's like 8 ounces for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Man, I may have to. Well, I'm not like really working out right now, but
But some things, so since pre-workout is not FDA regulated, it's good to know the ingredients to avoid.
is
in
there like
your
a
pre-workout.
brand that is like?
I use C4, and honestly, I've never even looked at the ingredients. So
I have no idea what I'm taking.
I don't know what I'm ingesting, but it's a really popular brand.
Is
So,
it? Yeah.
They make an energy
I mean,
drink,
hell,
too,
I eat and drink a lot of stuff. I have no idea what's in it. I mean, it's
Fun-
not.
fun
I was giggling at you, but I mean, I'm guilty as well, right?
Yeah. So artificial sweeteners, we already know what that's linked to.
Aspartame.
Aspartame. Yeah, linked to increased cancer risk.
That's up for debate. You have to take a lot of aspartame. Remember,
Affects
it's
your
like,
metabolism and gut health, apparently.
that's a risk of it. Oh. So, I mean, have you noticed any side effects from these things?
I don't know if my pre-workout has aspartame in it. I have to look it up. I have to look at it. And then niacin, that's like another type of, I guess.
Cause flushing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think most pre-workout uses that beta-alanine instead. Yeah. And that can cause liver toxicity.
I think you have to take a lot of it, though.
Yeah.
Like people
High
aren't
doses.
People aren't getting liver failure from taking.
No, but I think beta-alanine is a little bit better for you
than niacin.
Yes.
I'm not sure about that. I'd have to
Is
look.
it? I don't know. That was on the list. That was like, avoid this ingredient.
Really, niacin?
Mm-hmm.
That's like a vitamin, though.
I don't know. I said avoid it.
I'll have to look that up. I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
I think when you like test my knowledge, I'm like, oh, geez, I don't really know the answer to this.
Yeah. So, like I said, those are just good things to look at to try to avoid. That's what the article mentioned from those studies that they did, and just because it's not FDA regulated, so
Yeah,
it's
know
not.
what I wouldn't buy it like maybe off the internet.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess you could if it's the brand. You said
Yes.
there's some like certain brands that are considered good.
Yeah,
Like C4, you said?
that's what I take.
C4. That's a popular one?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that like if you're going to use these products, like there's like reviews and stuff that you can look at,
Definitely.
you know. I think if you're going to take that stuff, it probably is important to know what's in it.
And you're supposed to talk to your doctor, but
I'm sure
I'm
nobody
talking
does
to
that.
you about it.
Oh my God. You talk to your doctor? Yep.
I talked to a
I
doctor.
talked to the doctor that gives me Botox. And,
Yeah.
and he kind of looked at me with a blank stare and was like, okay, sounds good.
Yeah. But yeah, my experience with pre-workout has been good. I don't think that I can say that it's like I can't say that after I've taken pre-workout, I've been like, that's the best workout of my life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as simple as like even taking something like caffeine can help
Yeah.
you work out better. So like there's
Yeah.
definitely ingredients in there that are going to potentially give you more energy and focus. If there's creatine in it, then you're gonna be able to make a little bit more ATP. I mean, some of the stuff in there is a little bit questionable. I'd have to go through each one and say, okay. And I bet you a lot of them are like theoretically effective. Like that's very, very common with products, especially non-FDA regulated. It's like, okay.
There's always may.
Yeah, this may help
Yeah.
you do this. And it's like, okay, does it really help? Well, that's where like studies come in, but then of course there's not studies for it because when you're doing a study is expensive.
I think a lot of it might be like subliminal. Like I'm taking this to have a better workout because
yeah, it's a
want to
placebo
have
effect.
a
it's
I
placebo
want
effect.
to have a better workout.
But I mean, I was the same way. I was taking like creatine, and like when I was really working out, I would do like a post-workout
Yeah.
drink. And to be honest,
A recovery drink, yeah.
I don't remember what was in it. I think it was a lot of protein. Mm-hmm. I would eat like so much protein when I was like really working out. My problem is my metabolism is really fast. And if I really want to like gain muscle, I have to like go all in. I'm like eating just like nonstop, eating protein.
Every hour.
Yo, it's crazy. And then, because I got up, like, so when I was in plastic surgery fellowship, I got like to 170 and I was like ripped. Like I was looking really good because I was living by myself because I was away from my family. And so I would go to the gym like, because I
your free time.
Yeah, I had all this free time because I, was by myself, and I was hitting it really hard. I was going at least 3 times a week, and I put on some serious muscle. But it was crazy. As soon as I quit working out, I lost that muscle like in a year. It was all gone. I lost 20 pounds in a year of muscle, which was sad.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work gone.
I know, right? I've always wondered, like, if my metabolism slowed down, it might be easier for me to gain it and easier to hold it. I don't know. I mean, I still have some of it, but, I'm not like ripped or buff like I used to be.
Yeah.
Which is sad. Whatever. You can only do so much.
You can start tomorrow.
I could.
Or today.
I can't. Today, I'm like leaving today. But maybe when I get back. I really want to get back into it, truly.
There's a gym on the cruise.
Oh my God. I remember one time, so I guess the year before last, I was like, yeah, I'm going to start working out. So we were at Atlantis. And so I was like, I told my wife, I was like, I'm going to get up and work out. So I did. I got up and worked out. And like 2 days later, I was so sore I could barely like go to the beach.
You went too hard.
Yeah, I wasn't used to working out, right? And I was like doing weights and stuff, and I could do it. But then like 2 days later, I was like paying the price.
Walking funny.
Yeah, I looked like I'd been in a car wreck. She's like, what are you doing? You know, like, I don't know. I didn't think this through very well.
Don't talk to me.
That's kind of like my MO. It's like, I'm just going to do this and like, to hell with the consequences. But anyway, well, hey, that's good. I'm going to look into those actually.
Yeah.
And see, I'm going to look and see if I'm finding any data on them, see what's in them.
Yeah.
But I mean,
supplements are a gray area. I
they
feel
are,
like.
and they're big money too.
Yeah.
Like, people are getting rich, selling supplements. But I think a lot of the supplements, honestly, I think there's a lot of, and I'm not even talking about necessarily pre-workouts or whatnot. I mean, a lot of supplements really are superfluous. A lot of the stuff you take, our diet fills in that need, and it's like taking more doesn't necessarily help.
Right. I think,
and that's just a general statement.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you have time, I think just some caffeine and a good healthy snack before you work out, like an hour, 30 minutes.
Yeah, we talked about that. That's why I was mentioning it before, is we talked about like eating and how important it is before you work out for energy.
Yeah, that's the most, I feel like if you have time, do that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Besides putting powder in your face.
That was good though, Sarah. I like that. I always love your segments. It makes me think, think about stuff I haven't thought about in a while, and they're good topics. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, all right. I think that's all the time we have. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Please leave us a comment. We want to know if there's anything you would like us to talk about. We'd be happy to do a segment on something if you leave us a comment about it. So we'll see you next week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.